Oh yes, that is so much better, and hopefully now down in the comments section all the hair bashing will stop. But anyway, in this video I'm going to turn my focus and attention on to getting the walls of the camper van all finished. So we're going to be throwing around a bit of cladding, a bit of carpet and a bit of plywood to make it all neat and tidy, focusing on things like getting the windows boxed in and so on and so forth, and hopefully by the end of this video the van will look more like a camper van. But anyway, let's just get our teeth into it, shall we? The very first thing that I'm going to do is add some additional battening to the camper van, just to offer a little bit more support to the final finishes that are going up on the wall. And dare I say it, I don't really need to do this because there's enough battening in the van already to sort of glue and screw to, but I just think by doing this it'll just shore things up and make the whole build a lot more robust, and at the same time I don't think it'll add too much additional weight in the process. The plywood that we'd be using on the inside of the top cupboards would only be 3.5mm thick, and because of that I thought it'd be a good idea just to shore up behind there with some battens, just to limit the amount of flexing in the board. The last thing that I wanted was a wonky wall on the inside of the cupboard staring me in the face each and every time that I opened the door. Because the battens wouldn't be supporting a huge amount of weight, I was more than happy just to secure them to the existing battening using some stick-sole adhesive. Now, because I didn't use any screws, the battens did want to move about a little bit, so to secure them while the stick-sole dried, I just used a staple. I can tell you it's honestly not going to go anywhere. At the foot of the bed, we're just going to carpet this area because once the curtains are up and the mattress is down, the duvet on top, like the hoodies, you're not really going to see any of this. And the other reason is I'm 6'2", and the chances are, in the middle of the night, my feet are going to be sticking out the foot of the bed, and I'd sooner my toes come into contact with a nice warm carpeted area rather than a cold hard surface such as wood. But there's one thing that we do need to take into consideration, and that's the bolts for the side loading door rail. Because if ever I need to gain access to them in the near future for whatever reason, I don't want to have to rip the whole van apart to gain access to them. So we're going to box in that area and put a front face on it, which can be easily removed via screws. So if ever there comes a time when we need to get to them, we can without too much fuss. At the foot of the bed I didn't want a sharp edge for my toes to come into contact with, so I took the edge off just using a router. Out came the stick-sole again. It was just a simple case of gluing it to the metal of the van. Really pleased with the edge that the router put onto the batten, I decided to do exactly the same thing with the batten at the head of the bed where our heads would rest. But of course, with it glued in place, it was impossible for me to get at it with a router, so I broke out the multi-tool. The final thing that I had to do in preparation for the carpeting was just seal up any holes using some foil tape, and where I'd accidentally nicked away at the paint of the van with the multi-tool, just went over it with some red oxide primer. There's been a couple of little things I've had to take care of before I can turn my attention to the carpeting, so I'll just take a sec just to show you exactly what I've done. Now, if you watched our battening video, you might recall that originally I glued and screwed a batten at either end of the bed, and that was in preparation for fitting the bed frame. But as it turns out, they weren't required, and because they take up valuable space, they encroach by about 10mm either end, I thought it's probably best that I remove them. So they're gone now, and I'll tell you what, if ever there was any doubt about the gripping strength of stick-sole adhesive, I now know that I needn't worry because they were an absolute nightmare to get off. But they're gone now, and in the place I've replaced them with some 3.5mm ply. That's a nice smooth transition now between the wood and the metal above. And finally, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tape up all of the remaining holes Run some foil tape across the top edge of that wood just to make it even smoother. And finally, I can crack on with the actual carpeting. High temperature spray adhesive is used to glue the carpet to the inner walls of the van. Now, if you're thinking about doing this yourself anytime in the near future and you've never tackled this before, make sure you spray both the carpet and the surface that you'll be gluing it to. It's a contact adhesive, and for it to work correctly, you need to spray both surfaces, and there's a lot of videos out there that don't do that. So I just thought it was worth pointing out. A pair of upholstery scissors were worth the weight in gold when it came to getting into those tight little areas to cut away at the carpet. And in my opinion, the number one tool when it comes to fitting 4-way stretch carpet, it's the plucky little window scraper. Honestly, I'm not joking, it's my go-to tool. Now, you probably won't have this lying around, but because I'm a really cool guy, I just happened to have a miniature modelling sculpting tool, and it was just perfect for teasing the carpet into the window trim. I actually had more problems trying to cover the wheel arches than the walls due to their awkward shape, but with a bit of patience and perseverance, I managed to achieve a nice finish. With the head and the foot of the bed now covered in auto carpet as well as the wheel arches, I think while I'm in the zone, while I've got my groove going on with the carpeting, I'm going to turn my focus and attention onto getting the insides of where our cupboards are going to sit covered. So it's going to be a bit more 3mm ply, cut to shape and size, covered in auto carpet, and then as far as I'm concerned, that's another wall section completed. First things first, I'm just going to quickly carpet over this pillar here because it's going to sit proud of any other areas that we ply and carpet. So just want to tidy that up first, and then once that's done I can take care of everything else. And there it is again, guys, the trusty window scraper. I'm finding that throughout this van build, keeping a constant supply of cardboard on hand just comes in so useful for making templates. It's definitely saved me wasting a load of plyboard. Personally, I just make a rough template, and once I'm happy with that, I then apply it to some plywood. I then chip away at that until I'm happy with the shape and finish. Now, when it came to cutting the plywood with the jigsaw, I wasn't overly concerned with any tear out because at the end of the day, it's going to be covered with carpet, so you'll never see it. That patchwork applied that you can see there, that's going to form the inside of our top cupboards. And I can appreciate at the moment it's not the prettiest thing in the world. In actual fact, it's quite rough. I need to tidy up a few corners here and there, just round them off and straighten a few edges. But once that's done and it's carpeted and it's screwed back in place, I'm sure it'll look great. And I've done that on both sides of the camper van where the top cupboards are going to sit. And as you can see, they're both made out of 3 sections. And in an ideal world, each section would be one whole piece of ply, but because I've got a massive pile of 3.5mm ply down there that's going to waste, I've decided to glue 2 pieces together to make a whole section. And of course, once it's carpeted, you'll never know. And I'm all about waste not, want not. So what I'll do now is I'll take it down, straighten up all those edges that I've just pointed out, get it covered in carpet, and then I'll screw it back in place and I'll show you guys the finished article. carpeted to make absolutely certain that I got the screw in the right position. From the reverse, I chased through the screw hole with a pin and then followed it back through with a screw. Now arguably it may have been easier to screw battens from the floor to the ceiling the whole length of the van and then just screw large sheets of ply into them and avoid all these little intricate trim pieces that I'm making here. In doing it the way that I'm doing it, I'm not encroaching as far into the van as doing it the easier way, and hopefully you'll agree with me that in doing it this way, taking that extra time, it looks just as neat if not neater. What am I saying here? You're never going to see it, it's hidden inside the cupboard. So with the bedroom area all now fully carpeted, as well as the two top cupboards, or I should say the insides of the two top cupboards, I think the next thing that I'm going to look at sorting out is going to be the bed, or rather more precisely the boot area. And what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to ply line it, and once that's taken care of I can then put this slats back on top and forget about it. Well, other than a lick of paint, we can then forget about it and chalk that up as complete and move on to the next thing. For those of you that have been following the channel for a while, you should know by now that I love me a good template. And on that note, what I've done is I've kept the original ply lining for one of the wheel arches, and I'm hoping to fashion shut up, Millie. I'm hoping to fashion a new template out of that to use with the new ply that we're going to put in the van. But yeah, lost my train of thought now. With the original ply cut to shape and size, I just take bits of cardboard. For me, I just thought it was the easiest way of tackling it and getting a nice tight fit. Happy with the template, I then applied that to some 5.5mm ply. Honestly guys, I'm not sponsored by Bosch, I just like the tools. And if you happen to be interested in any of the tools that I have used today, I'll throw some links down in the description. I just happen to think that for the average DIYer, bang for buck, you get a lot for your money. We're building the camper van so that when we go away we can take the dog with us, and honestly guys, when I'm working on it, he never wants to go near it. But this cat, she's always there getting in my way. There you have it guys, that's our boot area all ply line now, and borrowing a lick of paint, it's finished. And you can also see that we've boxed in the fridge as well, because whilst we're out on the road, the last thing that we're going to want are some of our toys in the boot potentially bumping up against the side of the fridge and damaging it. So we've decided to box it in to offer it a little bit of protection. And as you can see at the top there, we've also added some holes as well near the electrical components, because these things apparently generate a decent amount of heat, and for them to operate as efficiently as possible you need to try and get that heat away from the fridge. So that's what those holes are there for, and hopefully they'll help it out and help it keep cool. So there you are guys, that's sections of our walls finished off in ply and carpet, and I'll be cladding the remaining areas, and I wanted to do that in this video as well as any other little odds and sods that needed taking care of, but that would have just made for a really long video, and let's be honest, who wants to listen to me waffle on for 30 minutes or longer? Not a lot of people. So I thought I'd knock it on the head there, and then in the next one we'll sort out the cladding and any other little odds and sods that need taking care of. But yeah, ply and carpet finish on the walls, easy to do and cheap and cheerful. And if I can do a decent job of it, which I think I have done, then anybody can. But anyway, I'm waffling now, so we'll knock it on the head there. But one final thing that I will say is that if you've enjoyed this video, taken the slightest bit away from it, then please consider throwing us a thumbs up and subscribing if you haven't done so already. And that's it guys, until next time, take it easy, stay safe, and fingers crossed, we'll see you in the next video. If you enjoyed this video, then please give us a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more and you haven't done so already, then please consider subscribing. And don't forget to hit that notification bell down below so you know exactly when we put up a new video. And until next time guys, take it easy, stay safe, and we'll see you in the next video.